Hi everyone, this is Bobby from bn-games.com, and welcome to the 2018 room update tour. I did this last November in 2017 after I had installed many of the bookshelves that you're going to see in the video. This one is not going to be quite as long as that previous video, and I'm not going to go through every single shelf because I did that in the previous one, and maybe you'll spot the differences. I'll do a overlay right now. So I did post a picture of the new setup on Facebook and a couple other groups, and I'm glad I did because I got some questions and comments that I, can address here. Just to kind of clarify. So the first thing that you might have noticed is the couch moved. Well, that's not the original couch that was in here. The original couch that was in here was a 3-seater, and it was huge, and I got rid of it. The reason I got rid of it is because my girlfriend moved in, and we put the desk right under one of the windows, and the couch used to, as you could see, kind of go crosswise there, so couldn't put it there, so we bought a smaller one, and because of the way the desks and this room fits, it kind of had to be put in that particular area just because it fits. So if I want to use it for the old CRT, which we're going to get to also, all I have to do is move the couch a little bit and we can readjust when necessary. So it's a nice little couch, and it sits right in front of the actual HD TV, which I do have, which I did show in the video, or will be showing again, because some of you didn't think I had one for the modern consoles. I got a lot of comments about, why do you have such an old TV, or, upgrade your TV. And some of it was, jokes, but some of them seemed pretty serious. They didn't understand why I had a CRT. The reason why you have a CRT, or old TV, as some of you called it, is that's what you play retro games on. That's what you should be playing retro games on. Retro games do not look right on modern televisions, and some of them don't play on them anyway, depending on what it is. So I have my old 27-inch TV, 27-inch CRT there to play whatever I want, on the couch. I'm about 34 years old now. That was what I grew up with, and that's what these consoles were designed for. So, yeah, that's why I have that. I have some notes here. Another comment I got, are you rich? No, I am not. I am not rich. This is about 30 years of collecting at this point, and, I got into a decent career and have, done pretty well for myself, but far from rich. A lot of this was by design. So you don't get to a collection like this unless you have a real passion and love for it, a focus on it. I mean, retro games, gaming in general is my life. I wouldn't be in the career I am now without these games. So it was necessary for me, I guess is one way to put it. If you love anything, you're going to focus on it. If you truly love it. And gaming, old school gaming, even new gaming, I'm not against new stuff. I mean, I've just finished Red Dead Redemption 2. But, if you love something, you're going to collect it. I mean, all this behind me, this is... You don't collect arcade machines because it's easy, because they're not. I have a whole video, check out the channel on... a whole series of videos on how complicated and how much a headache these can be. But, you don't get to a collection like this unless you have a focus for it, and that's what it is. I focused on the collection being a big part of my life, and it's always been a big part of my life, and that's why I have it. Having money really has nothing to do with it other than, I have a decent job, I pay my bills, and then, when I see something, you go to flea markets or... once in a while I'll get something on eBay if I really want it. Maybe I'll see a video from somebody else, they have reviewed something. I'm like, man, I don't have that. I really want to play that. And, maybe I'll get it that way. But these days, most of the games I collect, it's bargain bin searching, flea markets, and lowballing. Yes, you know, you may not like it, but I'm not paying eBay collector prices for anything. There's not a single game that is missing from my collection. You know, for example, Panzer Dragoon Saga for the Sega Saturn. Don't have it, and I will never pay $500-600 for it. Never. Not even close. At this point, I might pay $100 for it. Maybe. I know that's not realistic, but I've gotten a lot of games that, you know, you would say the same thing about. You know, I just waited. Eventually they cross my path and somebody doesn't want it. Craigslist, especially. Craigslist is a haven for the desperate, where I need to get rid of this because I need cash. So you can always find stuff. And that sounds messed up, but, you know, that's the way it is. You know, if you want to get something, you got to scour Craigslist all the time. And if you're in an area that doesn't have Craigslist, I'm sure you have an equivalent. OfferUp, there's a ton of services out there. But I will never pay what, you know, collector prices. I don't even like going into retro game shops anymore because they know who I am. You know, I walk in there and I start looking at prices and it's like, no, not doing that. You know, or, you know, my favorite is they never put the price, they never label the game's price and you ask for it, and then they give you a price and they think, you know, maybe it's fair by market value of whatever it's worth today, for example. But, you know, then I'm like, no, and then I walk away. So it becomes uncomfortable. And it depends. You know, some shops, you know, they understand that, you know, they're there waiting for that one person who got their tax return and wants to relive their childhood or, you know, whatever, you know, something of that nature. They're not looking for people like me who know the value of these things, study it regularly, and are not willing to pay those prices. Something else about the couch, in the original video you'll see I had some boxes, game boxes, and stuff on the bottom shelves behind the couch, and I'll show here what I have behind there that really is hidden is the N64 collection, which to me is not a big deal. N64 is my least favorite retro console, least favorite Nintendo console, but least favorite retro console in general. I'm not saying the N64 is bad. There's plenty of gems on there, but definitely not my favorite, not by a long shot. Now, as far as additions for the 2018 update, most of the areas that got big updates were the PS4 section, the PlayStation 2 section, the PSP section, and the Switch section. PS4 and Switch, especially with these holiday deals, I got so many, you know, PlayStation VR games that I really wanted and didn't want to pay, you know, $60 for or $50 for. Like, for example, I got Astrobot and Tetris, $15 a piece. I haven't played them yet. They're unwrapped, and I'm going to probably do it because I have some time off for this holiday. But, you know, there have been a ton of games. My PS4 section in the original, I maybe had 20 games, and I'm closer to 60, 70 now. PS4, this is a perfect time for to be a PS4 owner or to, you know, be getting a PS4 because there's so many games that came out that are cheap, you know, used and new. I mean, these are all new that I picked up and I got them for nothing. But on the used market, you can find a ton of this stuff. Now, typically, as far as new games are concerned, I usually play on the PC. I have a pretty damn good PC, and I play almost everything exclusively on the PC unless it's a console exclusive, or in some cases something that I want to play portably. That's where the Switch comes in. And Switch has had a hell of a year. I don't have the biggest Switch collection, but I've gotten most of the heavy hitters, and I'm amazed by that little thing. It's awesome. I hope there's a Switch 2 that's a little more powerful and you know, make some improvements, because I really hate those Joy-Cons. If I take my Switch, I usually take the Pro Controller with me and use the kickstand, because I hate those Joy-Cons. They're terrible. I'm sorry. You can put in the comments how much you love them. They're terrible. They should have just... The concept is nice, where, you know, one player gets one and, you know, they try to make it so you can play it, but they're terrible overall. They're not comfortable, especially... That's a whole subject for another video. Now, one thing I showed in this video that I didn't show in the previous one last year was my desk. And I actually bought a new desk. I actually switched to another job for a lot of corporate reasons. And I bought myself a desk and because it's a good job. And I also got myself... I bought another PVM. I had a PVM before of the same size, a 19, and I sold it, and I really wish I hadn't done that. I really wish I hadn't sold my previous PVM. It was much nicer than this one. I had a better picture than this one. But if you don't know what a PVM is, it's a professional video monitor. It's the sharpest. You will probably not see retro games better looking in their natural form, aside from emulation, turning up, settings that are not natural to whatever console you're playing. But seeing them natively, you will never see, for example, the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis sharper. It's unreal. And I got this one, and I got SCART cables, and it's sitting there, and I plan on using it a lot. It's the same quality monitor, if not better, than the arcade machines. They're, RGB correct and well made. It's a Sony. There are a lot of different PVM manufacturers, but the Sonys are the best. I also, show the rest. I have a Sony 24-inch television. That is actually from 2009, 2010. I can't remember exactly. That's a 3D TV, the PlayStation 3D TV. I bought one, and it came with MotorStorm, which was a severely underrated game. I wish more people played it. In fact, it was one of my first video reviews. MotorStorm is a technical marvel on the PlayStation 3. Now, I know this has been said quite a bit lately, especially since the release of Uncharted 2, that being the first game that really pushed the platform and pushed the hardware to limits that what people had hoped for when the console was initially released. But really, MotorStorm is its own beast. It's just a second racing franchise in Sony's lineup, first-party lineup. It's an arcade racer, very akin to the Dreamcast days. If you remember those days, it was Four Wheel Thunder, Hydro Thunder, Daytona USA, Sega Rally GT, that sort of thing. It's heavily influenced by all of those sorts of things. I don't know where the 3D glasses are. I know I have them in a drawer somewhere, and I've used them 2 or 3 times. It also does that thing with certain games, it didn't take off, where player 1 might see... You could have 2 players playing on the same screen, and they did it in such a way where when you had the 3D glasses on, one person would only see their screen, what they would see, and player 2 would do the same. So you could have 2 people on this 24-inch TV, but they see only their part of the screen. So if they're racing a MotorStorm, player 2 only sees their part, where, would typically be a split screen. So it did stuff like that. It didn't take off because it was poorly designed. I've had 3 of them now. Friends of mine gave me theirs because they didn't need them anymore. And the problem with them is once in a while they'll turn themselves off and on again, which I've never had one that was really bad. It happens once in a while. The reason I say poorly designed is because, from what I understand from my reading, and it's been a while, I might be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure this is correct, they overheat. The PCB built into the TV overheats. And if you look at the back of the thing, it makes sense. It's pretty thin. So even by 2009, 2010 standards, this thing was severely thin. And it flickers for some people. I know some people said that it was happening a lot. I've never had one, and I've only had 3, so, take this with a grain of salt, where it happened more than once an hour, if that. And I have my Xbox 360 and my PS3 hooked up to it, which are behind it on the desk, which are hooked up to my Elgato for recording, whatever I want from that. The PS2, I'll record PS1, PS2, PS3 games. Not so much PS3 these days. And the Xbox 360 I have plugged in because it's the first Xbox 360 I've had in years. Someone gave it to me. It was like brand new. Has almost no hours on it. And they gave it to me, and I bought some games, which you'll probably have seen in the video, the panning shots. Don't really plan on growing that library too much because a lot of the stuff that's on the Xbox 360 and PS3 that I might play is probably on Steam, and I can play it on the PC. So it's there for Halo, and not really Gears of War because that game... I really like Gears of War 1. Gears of War 2, 3, 4 was garbage. Sorry, it just was. I don't think I'll be doing a 2019 update unless I actually get drywall in here. That's the plan. at some point with the job switching. I haven't been able to stay in a certain position for too long because of corporate reasons, not me being a bad employee, but acquisitions, that's the word. And I'm at a stable spot now, so I think at some point this will get drywalled. We have complete new power in here, new lighting. It's the wood has been set up now and stripped, so we can put drywall in here. I'm probably going to run 10 gigabit Ethernet cable and put some 10 gigabit ports. Even though I don't have a 10 gigabit router, those will be, the prices will start coming down, and I'll eventually get one of those. I'm going to get a NAS for my, for the YouTube stuff that I'm doing. About to hit 10,000 subscribers. It's only been 10 years, my channel is very niche. There's a lot of Japanese arcade stuff, a lot of import stuff. I don't do a lot of videos on new games anymore because there's everyone can buy an Elgato now and record their Call of Duty footage or their Red Dead footage. I don't think I really contribute anything that's gonna help, and it's not really my era. I play the new stuff. I play a lot of the new stuff, but most of what I like and I think can bring to the table as far as YouTube and the video game community is import stuff. My Regional Lock series, which is my original concept, I have to really repeat that because I have had a YouTube channel steal the idea. It's me playing a retro an import title from various consoles and figuring out if it's an English friendly or a Western friendly. Can I buy this even though if I don't speak the language, be it Japanese or whatever it is, but typically Japanese? And can I play this? Is it any fun? And I found some real gems. One of them is Tetsujin 28 Go. I know I talked about it in the previous video. Love that game. Every year I love it more. And it's one of those games where I have actually tried to emulate it on the PS2 just to see if I get a better frame rate. It does look a little better, but that engine suffers. So I would love to see a HD remake of that particular game, but I can never see it happening. The closest thing we get is Earth Defense Force, which is Sandlot and the same developers of Tetsujin. So Earth Defense Force 4 and 5, I imported 5 when it came out in the PS4 in Japan. They're very much kind of in the same spirit, so they're like the spiritual successor in my mind, even though EDF 1 came out before Tetsujin, I think, or around the same time. So anyway, it doesn't matter. Love that series, love that developer. But getting off the rails here. 2019, I probably won't do another video like this unless there's a demand for it, or I do the drywall and can show this in its final form, because I did this we got this cleaned up about 2 or 3 years ago. This place was really bad, and he redid all the electrical. This building, this house and the building was built in the late 20s, really outdated gauge wiring. So did that with proper everything. Everything's up to code. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please put a comment below. If I get enough questions, maybe I can do a Q&A. Maybe you have some specific questions about specific parts of the library. I consider myself a gaming historian at this point, or a caretaker. This collection, I guess another question I get a lot is, do you play all these games? And the honest answer is no. I don't get it. I don't have the time to play all of them. But I am going through it slowly as time goes on. I'll take a game and I'll go through it and try to complete it. Right now I'm playing Warship Gunner 2. I'm doing a playthrough of that. And, that's the plan until retirement. When we retire, I got all the time in the world, assuming I can retire. Let's see if the economy allows me. Then I'll go through these games. If not, I'll take my time. It'll take years, but I'll eventually get through the majority of it. And if not, like I said, I feel like I'm a caretaker. I'm doing my best to take care of these things, take care of these games, and make sure they have a home. They're not being lost or ruined or abused, and that's what it's all about. And I'll admit also, I'm across. I'm there's a cross between PS1 and Dreamcast, which is my favorite console of all time. The PlayStation 1 library is probably overall my favorite because it has more of the games that I grew up with and impacted me as a kid. Where the Dreamcast, for me, was like the epitome of consoles. Now, I know the PlayStation 2, I love the PlayStation 2 also, don't get me wrong, but the PlayStation 2 started shifting into the era which led into the PS3 and the Xbox 360. It went from being console game experiences, and I don't know if I have a better way of explaining that, to online service experiences. And there's a certain point where the experimentation, at least with the consoles, kind of starts dying off. And the Sega Dreamcast was just, I know it was mostly an arcade machine, but arcade games inherently were, I don't even know how to explain it. I don't know if I can put it into words, but really the Sega Dreamcast was really the epitome of consoles, I think. Even though it had a modem, even though it had, a broadband adapter, which I do have, it really was still the last, for me, something personal about it, console. It might have also been a time in my life, because between the Dreamcast and PlayStation 2, I, left high school and went to college. And I didn't play the PlayStation 2 as much until after college and when I started working. So that might be rose-tinted glasses also, but the Dreamcast, I think that was like the last stop where it was like, this is a console, there's something magical about the Dreamcast. I mean, I'm part of the Facebook group Dreamcast Junkyard, and I don't even know how to explain it. I love the Dreamcast. And the PlayStation 1 from a library perspective. The console itself, I know that's not something that everyone can play these days. I know that the visuals of that don't hold up, especially for anyone who's even 5 years younger than me. A lot of younger people see that and go, ooh, that's kind of disgusting. I can't see it today, but that was a great era, especially for RPGs. I don't really play them these days. I can't really stomach like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. No, not my cup of tea. But had it come out on the PlayStation 1, I probably have played the hell out of it. So age, time, and tastes do change, but I'll still play Final Fantasy VII from start to finish with no question. Final Fantasy VIII is garbage. Yeah, Final Fantasy VIII is garbage. 9 was great. Loved 9. And this video would get too long if I went through every single RPG I have. Xenogears, someone gave me Lufia recently. I started playing that, and that's kind of, it's okay. I don't know. Anyway, video's a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. It's more of a talking head than I thought. But this is the collection as it is today. And I just, I felt I'd answer some of the stuff that I saw in the comments on Facebook and Imager and Reddit and a couple other places I post. Yeah, so put your comments below. Let me know what you think. I hate to do, I know people make fun of this, but, everyone says, smash that like button, bullshit. Subscribing helps keep me going. I don't do this for a living. I don't post videos even nearly as often as I did even 2 years ago. But when I do, I try to do it on a subject that is unique. So more arcade machine stuff. I got some plans for the Thomas Wave, or Adams Wave. People say it both ways. I'm going to get a new panel for this, and I'm going to do a video of installing that. Still working on the initial D cabinet, trying to get that light bar working. Is it on right now? No, it's not. I got the plastic. If you've been following the channel, you know that we tried putting the bulb in there, and that's a problem. So I got stuff there. I'm going to open up that PVM because it's got geometry issues. We're going to show you the inside of that and how to adjust it. And more import games. That's really my focus as far as retro stuff. And then, play through Warship Gunner, which is a damn good game. I always watched videos of it and thought, man, that looks cool, and it's a good game. A little difficult, but it's pretty good. Anyway, I know I'm going to random. Please subscribe and let me know what you think. Thank you.